You know, there are colors in this world that just mean trouble, like the sickly, institutional green of a hospital waiting room, or the frantic flash of blue and red lights in your rearview mirror. But let me tell you, the absolute worst, the most soul-sucking, spirit-crushing color on the entire spectrum is HOA-approved beige. Beige is the official color of petty tyranny, the color of, I'm about to ruin your perfect Tuesday for no good reason at all. And frankly, beige is the color of Brenda Riley. Brenda was the self-appointed CEO of the Harmony Creek Homeowners Association, and her whole existence revolved around policing other people's enjoyment. She didn't send good news in beige. You don't get party invitations or checks or even interesting junk mail in beige. Beige is the color of cease and desist. Beige is the color of your trash cans were visible from the street for an unauthorized 11 minutes. So there I was, David Henderson, standing by my mailbox on a crisp October afternoon, minding my own business, when I felt it. The stiff, unforgiving, sharp corner of that beige envelope from the HOA's Architectural Review Committee. I sighed. It was probably about the single weed I saw near my driveway. Or maybe my lawn was 0.2 inches above the mandated 2.5 maximum. But I slid it open with my car key, and the contents were so much worse, so much more personal. It made my blood pressure do a little, tiny, angry samba. It was an official notice of violation, dated October 26th, addressed to yours truly, for unapproved external storage of materials, firewood. The description was a masterpiece of bureaucratic malice. A large, uncontained, and messy pile of firewood has been observed on the side of your property. This constitutes an eyesore, is not in harmony with the community's aesthetic standards, and is known to attract vermin. Vermin. I looked over at the pile. It was a perfectly reasonable cord of seasoned oak I'd had delivered last week for my backyard fire pit. I'd spent a solid 3 hours stacking it, or mostly stacking it, in a perfectly wood-like pile against the side of my house. It was neat. It was tidy. It was, for God's sake, wood. But the letter, signed in Brenda's tight, angry script, gave me an ultimatum. Remove the messy pile from public view within 72 hours, or face an immediate fine of $100, plus $50 for every day thereafter the violation remained uncorrected. This wasn't just a random inspection. This was a targeted strike. I flashed back to last week, the day the wood arrived. I'd just started stacking when Brenda's silver Lexus whispered to a stop in front of her identical taupe Fortress across the street. She'd glided over, clipboard in hand. I swear, that woman sleeps with a clipboard. Her smile that thin, terrifying crescent, like a shark that just passed its real estate license exam. That's an awful lot of wood, Mr. Henderson, she'd said, her voice a poisonous hum. Yep, for the fire pit. Winter's coming. The bylaws have very clear guidelines on storage, she'd purred. Section 14. I trust you've read them. See that you keep it neat? It would be a shame to see a fine. A real shame. And now, here was the inevitable beige torpedo. Vermin, she said. I looked at the wood. Then I looked across the street where I could just see her silhouette in the window, watching. Always watching. A tiny gray squirrel, a real one, skittered along my fence, stopped, and flicked its tail at me as if to mock my noncompliance. Vermin, I muttered to the squirrel. She wants to see vermin? A slow, dangerous, and profoundly stupid idea began to bubble up. I uncrumpled the letter, smoothed it out on my leg, and marched across the street. I found Brenda where I knew I would be, kneeling on her front yard, surrounded by a small army of tacky lawn gnomes. She was holding a 4-inch bubble level, checking the tiny pointed red hat of a fishing gnome. He's leaning, I heard her mutter to herself. Leaning 2 degrees to the port side. Unacceptable. Brenda. She jumped, startled. She instantly composed herself, brushing a speck of non-existent dirt from her beige knee. Mr. Henderson, she said, her voice dropping 10 degrees. You're on my fescue. Please use the walkway. I got your letter. A $100 fine for a wood pile? Isn't that a little aggressive, even for you? Her eyes were flat and gray, like unpainted drywall. Rules are rules, Mr. Henderson. Your pile is not in compliance with Section 14C. It is an unapproved, messy external storage of materials. It's an eyesore. It's a wood pile, Brenda. What exactly do you want me to do? Hide it in my living room. The bylaws are perfectly clear. she said, lecturing me like a difficult child. You have several options. 1. Store it inside your garage. 2. Store it in the backyard behind a 6-foot, pre-approved privacy fence. I'm not building a $1,000 fence just to hide firewood, Brenda. That's insane. She gave me that terrible thin-lipped smile. Or 3. You can simply not have it. Your choice. You have, she paused, checking her watch, 71 hours and 42 minutes left. I'd get started. I pushed, desperate to find the crack in her foundation. What if I stacked it really well? What if I made it, I don't know, into a cube? A perfectly neat cube? Would that be okay? Brenda actually had to stop and think about that. Her brain whirred, searching the index of HOA bylaws for the answer. The bylaws do not explicitly forbid cubes, she conceded, suspicion dripping from every word. As long as it is not a messy pile, I suppose it is merely storage. But it would have to be perfectly neat. And frankly, Mr. Henderson, I doubt your ability to create anything that meets our standards of harmony. She turned back to her gnome, placing the level on its head with a sharp click. 71 hours, Mr. Henderson. The clock is ticking. I walked away, my hands clenched, the words echoing. Perfectly neat. Not a messy pile. I looked back at the fence where that same squirrel was still sitting. He looked at me. I looked at him. Vermin, she said. A slow, evil, magnificent grin spread across my face. Perfectly neat, I whispered. Okay, Brenda, you want neat? I'll give you neat. I'll show you a vermin so neat it will break your brain. My phone was in my hand before I reached the front door. I went to a local community forum and typed, need contractor. Creative. Good with metal and spite. Urgently. An hour later, a pickup truck pulled up that looked like a tetanus shot on wheels. A guy hopped out with a magnificent braided beard and a Carhartt jacket. Phil Scrappini, but everyone calls him Scrappy. You the guy who posted about spite? He rumbled. Worse than an unpainted mailbox, I said, pointing at the wood pile. They find me for that. Says it's a messy pile and attracts vermin. I have 70 hours to stack it. Perfectly neat. So, you want me to build you a woodshed? Scrappy asked. No, I said, taking a deep breath. I don't want to hide it. I want to display it. I want to stack it, I whispered, into a 12-foot-tall squirrel. Scrappy stared at me. For a full 10 seconds, the only sound was a crow calling in the distance. Then his face cracked. A low chuckle started in his chest, then erupted into a full-blown, wheezing laugh. A squirrel, he choked out. Like a giant tree rat. A majestic 12-foot squirrel, I corrected. And he's going to be holding a giant nut, pointing right at Brenda's bedroom window. Scrappy wiped a tear from his eye. Oh man, kid. This is spite art. Malicious compliance in its highest form. I love it. I'm in. He switched into business mode instantly. We need a frame, rebar, a welder. The problem is that which over there is going to call it a structure. Bylaws say permanent structures need permits. It's not permanent, I countered, the loophole shining. I'll be taking wood from it all winter to burn. It's a temporary functional storage sculpture. Scrappy's grin returned. You're good. You're real good. Temporary functional storage. She can't argue with that. It's not a structure. It's a container. A very, very large, squirrel-shaped container. We're going to need to sink some footings for safety, but we'll call them temporary stabilization points. You gotta love semantics. The next morning, Harmony Creek was awakened not by bird song, but by the high-pitched, angry hornet scream of a metal grinder. By 9 a.m., my side yard looked like a war zone. We were welding the main skeleton. Mrs. Gable, my 80-year-old neighbor who despised Brenda, shuffled over. Morning, boys, she chirped. Are we building a new trellis, dear? Something like that, Mrs. G, I said. Just organizing my wood. She looked at the giant metal frame, looked over at Brenda's house where the curtains were twitching, and a slow, delighted cackle escaped her. Ah, organizing. I see. Well, you let me know if you need a lovely, vermin-colored garden hose. We'd just started welding the armature for the giant bushy tail when the inevitable happened. What is that? Brenda was storming across the street, clipboard in hand, in a furious plum pantsuit. That is an unapproved structure. You did not submit plans. It's not a structure, Brenda, I said cheerfully. It's an armature for stacking. You told me I had to stack my wood neatly. This is the only way I could figure out how to do it to your harmonious standards. Brenda sputtered. She was looking for a bylaw that specifically mentioned 12-foot squirrel skeletons, and failing. It's hideous. It's metal. It'll be completely covered by the wood, Scrappy replied. Just infrastructure. I am checking the bylaws, she shrieked. You will be hearing from me, Mr. Henderson, and from my lawyer. She spun on her heel and slammed her front door. 58 minutes later, a police cruiser pulled up. Sergeant Krupp, the weary one, and Officer Chun, the young one, got out. What are we doing here? Krupp sighed. Got a call about an aggressive metal thing. Morning, officers, I said. I'm just stacking my firewood. Krupp looked at the 12-foot metal skeleton. You're stacking your firewood, he repeated, trying to process the statement. Officer Chun finally spoke. Sir, is that a squirrel? It's an abstract representation of nature, officer, Scrappy deadpanned. Krupp pinched the bridge of his nose. He finally turned to face Brenda, who was vibrating on her porch. Ma'am, he shouted, it is on his property. It is not a public safety hazard. It is not a crime to be creative. The bylaws are an HOA matter. It is not a 911 emergency. Please stop calling us. As Officer Chin got in the cruiser, he paused, leaned in, and whispered, make the tail fluffier. Honestly, kind of rooting for you guys. That feeling of invincibility lasted until 5 p.m. when the metal skeleton was complete. Then I saw it. Taped to my front door was another beige envelope. My heart sank. She hadn't even bothered with the formal letterhead. It was typed in angry red Comic Sans. Second notice of violation and immediate fine. Violation, Bylaw 11A. Unapproved permanent structure, metal. Fine, $500. A stop work order is hereby issued. Cease and desist all construction immediately. She'd done it. She'd waited until the cops and Scrappy left. She'd fine me for the solution to the first fine. $600 total, and a metal skeleton on my lawn I couldn't touch. She was trying to trap me. The rage I felt was so pure, so hot it could have powered a small city. I pulled out my phone and hit redial. She did it again, I said, my voice dangerously calm. She fined me $500, unapproved permanent structure. And she issued a stop work order. She did not issue a stop work order on my build. Scrappy's voice suddenly darkened. All right, this is no longer a civil matter. This is war. I'm coming back. I'm bringing my biggest spotlights and my son-in-law. We're working all night. By 10 p.m., my house was lit up like a maximum security prison. Scrappy returned with T-Bone, his refrigerator-sized son-in-law. And so we stacked. The thud, thud, thud of oak logs being hammered into the rebar frame echoed through the suburban night. We were sculpting. We used flat split logs for the fur and big round logs for the hunches, giving Barnaby some real muscle. Every log I placed was a tiny, woody screw you to Brenda. By 2 a.m., Barnaby was 80% complete. And of course, that's when Brenda lost her mind. Her front door flew open. I am calling the police. You are violating the noise ordinance. It is 2 in the morning. She was in a pink, fuzzy bathrobe, her face a grotesque mask of fury. I grabbed the $500 fine from my pocket, held it up, and yelled back. Clock's ticking, Brenda. I've got a deadline to meet. You gave it to me. Just trying to get in compliance. 10 minutes later, Krupp and Chun were back. Krupp saw it. The giant, solid, magnificent wooden squirrel. Holy, Krupp breathed. He actually did it. I handed him the $500 fine and the stop work order. She's trying to trap me. I'm just trying to get my messy pile stacked off the ground and into this rack. We'll be done by sunrise. Krupp sighed, looked at Barnaby, then looked at Brenda's ghostly face in the window. He grabbed his PA microphone. His voice boomed through the night. Ma'am, Mrs. Riley, this is the police. They are stacking wood. It is not a crime. Go to bed. Do not call us again unless you see an actual fire or a murder. Go to bed. Chin gave us a discreet thumbs up. Get it done before sunrise. At 5:30 a.m., just as the sky was turning a pale purple, Scrappy placed the last piece of wood on Barnaby's head. We stepped back. Barnaby was 12 feet tall. He was majestic. He was an absolute, undeniable wood-grained marvel. And he was staring right into Brenda's bedroom window, holding his nut like a trophy. That morning, the news showed up. Stacy, the perky reporter, marched right up to me. Sir, what is going on? Well, Stacy, I said, pointing to the fines I had taped to my door. My HOA president fined me for my messy wood pile. She said it was an eyesore and attracted vermin. She gave me 72 hours to stack it perfectly neat. And this giant squirrel, Stacy said, eyes wide. This is you fixing it. This is my vertical firewood storage solution, I said calmly. His name is Barnaby. Right on cue, Brenda's front door flew open. She could not resist the siren call of a television camera. It's a violation, she shrieked. Ma'am, Stacy said, running over. It looks like it's just attracting, well, squirrels. And then, as if God himself had a flair for comedy, a real live squirrel ran right up Barnaby's massive wooden leg and sat directly on top of Barnaby's head, flicking its tail. Brenda broke. The bylaws, she sputtered, her face a terrifying shade of purple. Fines. Liens. It's not harmonious. With a final incoherent scream, she turned and slammed the door. 2 days later, Brenda doubled down, posting notice for an emergency HOA meeting to vote on a $2,000 fine and a property lien. The community center was packed. The entire neighborhood showed up for the show. Brenda stood at the podium, trembling. We are here to vote on an emergency fine, she shrieked. When she allowed me to speak, I walked to the front, holding the 2 fines. Brenda, you're right about one thing. This is about the bylaws. You fine me for a messy pile. Then you fine me for the structure I built to comply with your first fine. You can't have it both ways. It's both, she shrieked. No, it's not, I said calmly. It's a vertical firewood storage solution, and you can't fine me for it for 2 reasons. First, the bylaws define a structure as any permanent building. Barnaby is none of those. He is, by definition, temporary storage. I pulled out a photo of my fire pit with a fire in it. I'm already using the wood. He will be gone by spring. He is literally a wood pile that is too neat. The room was dead silent. Brenda, desperate, put the motion to the vote. Her 3 board members raised their hands. 3 in favor, she said. Wait a minute. Scrappy's voice boomed from the back. The bylaws state that any fine over $1,000 or any property lien must be approved by a majority of homeowners present. Brenda's face crumbled. She'd forgotten her own rules. A sea of hands went up in opposition. The motion was crushed. The room erupted in applause. A week later, I was in my backyard. The autumn air was crisp, and a cheerful fire was crackling in my fire pit, fueled by what I was subtly pulling from Barnaby's lower tail. Scrappy had designed it perfectly. Brenda was officially facing a recall vote sponsored by Mrs. Gable. I leaned back in my chair, nursing a beer, and looked over at the massive woody squirrel looming over my fence. He was a 12-foot, 4,000-pound monument to spite. She wanted it neat. I said to the fire, taking a sip. I'd say that's about as neat as it gets. I beat the system by following its rules to the most absurd extreme. But I want to know what you think. If you were in my shoes and the HOA fined you, would you have hidden the woodpile in the garage, or would you have built Barnaby? Let me know in the comments below, and tell me what wild HOA rule your neighborhood has. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you believe malicious compliance is the only way to fight HOA tyranny.